Morning, good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I was making some tea.
No problem.
I don't remember if Sam is going to join or not because everybody is going in and out of the sessions and I'm not sure. Let me check. No, it's not. So it's just the three of us.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so first of all, thanks a lot for having worked a little bit or some work done on the branch. It's good to see that you still keep the interest for the project. So from what I've seen on Slack and on the branches for the last 2 or 3 days, it looks like you're all struggling with observables, which is perfectly natural because it's at the beginning it's a pretty rough concept to grasp, and once you get it, it's easier to use. But I understand that at the beginning it's quite complicated. So I thought that maybe we could stop a little bit the app for half a session or maybe most of the session today to really get in touch with it and understand how it works and how to use them, those observable, because they are critical for any project you're going to use in Angular and with Firestore. So I think it's much better to have the basis covered and then to go on. Okay, so my ID is the following. So I don't know if I'm going to share. Let me check. Here it is. So I suppose you're seeing the my Chrome browser, no?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I don't know if you know stackblitz.com. If you don't,
I've heard of it.
Okay, so if you don't, just go to it and bookmark it. It's VS Code online. Okay, so you just go to stackblitz.com. You can even sign in with your GitHub login, and it even saves your project. We won't save anything today, so I'm not saying it, but when you go to the StackBlitz homepage, you have this little hero presentation, and then you can start new workspace with all these predefined frameworks or library, etc. And it's extremely powerful. So today we're going to use the RxJS. So just click on it, and it will automatically set up a project for you with all the necessary libraries. Okay, so it's not an Angular project. It's just a TypeScript file and an HTML file. That's it. And StackBlitz takes care of transpiling the TypeScript code into normal JavaScript and display the content on the small window on the right side. So pretty easy. So if you want, you can follow along. So I'm going to get rid of that. I don't know if you see. Okay, let's.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't need the taskbar, the sidebar. Sorry, still with my tea. All right. So, as usual, I'm going to try to start from easy to more complex. Of course, please interrupt me whenever you have a doubt or you think you have understood something you want to check if it's correct or not. That's the point of it. So first thing we're going to do, we are going to use something called, let's start from the beginning. inside the RxJS library, there are basically two places where you can find stuff. The root, the RxJS, and the RxJS / operators. And the difference is the object or functions that are located in the root in RxJS are what they call constructors, meaning that they are objects or function that helps you construct a new observable from nothing. And the other one, the operators, are the functional object that you use inside the pipe function to modify the stream of data. Okay, so we're going to see that in a second. So there is also learn RxJS. Let me check if it's correct before showing you. Oh, it's .io. Okay, so that's crappy. So you still see the StackBlitz window?
No, we see the RxJS thing.
Okay, cool. So this site, learnrxjs.io, is probably the best place to get some references. It's not that easy to learn it from scratch, but when you have more or less an idea of how it works, you have everything is already categorized, and there are some examples, and you have everything listed, so it's super easy to use. And once you know how observable work, it's super easy to remember. Oh yeah, fork join, it was doing this and that, and they give you 2 or 3 examples from simple to complicated, etc., etc., and sometimes in some charts or whatever. So it's a very good reference. So back to our page. So we're going to create our first observable. So we create the easiest one is the interval observable. Okay, so interval, and then auto import C. So since it's a function to create a new observable, it gets automatically imported from the RxJS package. Okay. So from what I've seen from your code, some of your codes, there is usually a little misunderstanding, or maybe you forget how they work. Observable, any kind of observable has 2 functions: the pipe function and the subscribe function. And think about the subscribe function like any subscription, even the subscription to Netflix. The result of subscribing to Netflix is not a movie. It's a subscription form. It's a subscription ticket. It's your subscription number. Okay? So the result of subscribing, what you get from the subscribe function, is just a reference to the subscription. Okay? It's like the bill. It's the reference with which you can identify this subscription with Netflix. It's not the content of what you're subscribing to. Okay, this is very important. So when you do, so I create here my interval now is now an observable, but it doesn't do anything because nobody has subscribed to it. Okay, so if I subscribe to it, if I do this, subscription equal my subscribe, and then here I have a callback function. Okay, so this is how you subscribe to an observable. Very easy. Okay, so far so good?
Yep.
So what's in subscription? It will never be the data itself. It's just a reference to this subscription. So if you look at, if we do that, let's comment this out for the moment, and just do console log subscription. Okay, if I see here and I reload, this is what I get. Okay, this is the object that the subscription returns. The subscription is not closed; it's still open. I have subscribed. I have not unsubscribed to the subscription, so it's still open. And other information that you don't really care about. And this is important because you have to keep track of this subscription to be able then to unsubscribe to it. Okay, so if I do that, let me refresh, because this doesn't work. It doesn't clear the console on reload or automatic reload. We have to. Okay, so first one is close is false, is stop is false, and this one close is true and is stop is true. Okay, and this is extremely important, and you're going to see why in a second. Okay, so as a general rule, every time you use subscribe somewhere, you absolutely have to get this subscription in the same place you subscribe, and when you leave this place, you have to call unsubscribe. I'm talking about if you subscribe to an observable inside a component, you have to, at some point, get notified from the component that is going to be destroyed, and at this moment, you have to unsubscribe to your observable, or you can subscribe manually. But you have to make sure that when you exit this component, the subscription is undone. Okay, but for the sake of the course or the explanation, I will not do the subscribe and unsubscribe, because we are refreshing the browser each time, so we won't have any memory leaks or stuff like that. But this is not good practice at all. Okay, it's just to make it clear. So this interval observable is pretty intuitive. What it does, it emits a value every n milliseconds. In our case, every 1,000 milliseconds, every second. Okay, so as soon as I load the page, okay. Then I have here my console log with the value displayed. Okay? Is it okay, or is it simple?
What is these numbers that are showing up in the console?
Okay, so
What do they represent?
They don't represent anything. The interval observable, what it does, it emits a value every time lapse you define. Here it's 1 second, okay? And what value does it emit? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, so it just emits.
It's just a counter, just +1. Every time it emits a value, the preceding value +1.
Okay.
Okay. But you don't have to output the value itself. You could output this, and then every second it will output. Well, actually, what interval does, it's exactly the same as the interval function in JavaScript, in set interval. It just triggers the set interval function in JavaScript, triggers the callback function every n second or n millisecond. Here, it's not exactly the same. Here, we are creating a pipe, okay? And the pipe is created with the interval. Once we subscribe, it means we open the faucet, which is connected to the pipe, and then some data flow through the pipe. And what data? In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they are emitted from the observable itself, and they go through the pipe down to the callback function inside the subscribe. Okay? So that's how observable work. So what we are going to do, we're going to change this. Okay, so yeah, okay. Sorry. And this is value. Okay, so that's quite easy. So we can do, now we're going to do something a little bit funnier. So here, I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to create a button. No, but no. Come on. Button. Okay, and then here, this is standard JavaScript. So here we're querying the document for the button element. And now what we can do, what is very useful, is we can create an observable from an event, a typical HTML event. And the way to do it is very easy. You grab the HTML element you need, and you pass it to the from event function with the name of the event you want to be aware of, to be notified. Okay, and this will create a new observable that will emit values each time this event is triggered in the document. So we can do that the same way. I'm going to comment this one. Okay, and here I can do button click, subscribe. This is event. Okay, so now it's time I click, 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 click. A new event is emitted from the observable and is routed down to the subscription. So this is just a classical mouse event in typical JavaScript. Okay, so this is okay, but not very useful. So where is the power of observable? The power of observable is in the operators. So what we can do, let's say, again, forget about the button for the moment, get back to this. And what we're going to do, we're going to use our interval observable. Oops, sorry. And we're going to use the pipe function of it. The pipe is just, okay, so each time there is a new value emitted from this observable, you're gonna put it inside this pipe, and this pipe will have several steps, and at each step some modification or some stuff can happen to the data streaming down along the pipe. So the most common operator is map. Okay, so it's here, map. And map is exactly, it has exactly the same function as the map operator of JavaScript for an array. Okay, so here, as you have seen, we were emitting value from 1 to infinite every second. So here we have the value, and we can, oops, return value multiply by 2. Okay, so there we go. So I haven't touched this. So in the subscription, the only thing I do is just display what I receive from the whole pipe. Okay, and my interval is still the same. I'm still emitting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then with the map operator, I'm able to modify the value that is routed through the pipe. Okay. So far, so good.
Yep.
Okay. Just a little comment. This is the long way to write this. This is the shorter way. Okay. This is the same. I don't know if you know the syntax in JavaScript. I don't remember if we saw that. If you have an arrow function,
Yeah.
if you just put some value here, it means it will return this value.
Return it, yeah.
The curly braces and the return statement. So this and the thing that was before are exactly the same. Okay.
How is this index.ts file tied to the HTML?
Sorry?
How is this index file connected to the HTML file? Is this just what's been set up in StackBlitz, that the HTML?
Yes, there's just H1 here, and then I delete the rest and I put a button myself. That's it.
But how does it know about the JavaScript?
Oh, it does everything on the background.
Okay, that's just happening in the background.
Yes, exactly. As you can see, you don't have any index.js here.
Yeah.
Which is actually the one that is running.
Mm-hmm.
It is transpiled in the background, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay. Okay, let's forget about this one. Go back to the button click. Okay, so we're going to use the pipe here. Another operator which is very common is the tap operator, which has been renamed like 1 year ago. Before it was named the do operator. So it is not something that modify the data. Okay, it is like a step inside the pipe where you have access to the data streaming inside the pipe, but it doesn't alter the data, doesn't change it. Okay, so here I have my click event. I can say console log inside tap click event. Okay, so now each time I click, okay, there are two things happening. The data comes from the observable. It goes through the pipe. First thing it encounters it's the tap operator. So it will execute the code from the tap operator. So it would get the click events. So the data which is flowing inside the pipe, and then it would display it. And then this same value is still going to the subscribe at the final of the pipe, and you just show it. So to make it here inside subscribe. Okay, so if I click, you can see how it works. Okay, what I can do is here do return 0. Oops. If I do that, nothing happens because the tap operator doesn't change the value. So it is executed. I know it because here this is executed, this is run, but the click event is still the click event. If I use the map that we just seen before, then we have something else. Okay, so the data is flowing through the pipe. It goes to the map operator. The map operator just display the click event, which is the data that it is receiving, but then it modifies it or whatever it does, and it has to return a value. And this value that is returned is the new value that will go to the next step of the pipe until the subscribe function, and it will be at the end the last thing that is going to be displayed. Okay.
Yep.
So think that those observables here, those will be in our scenario, they will be the results of the query to Firestore. So each time there is some update in Firestore, you will get some new data emitted in your observable, and they will flow into the pipe. All right. So now the tricky thing. So far so good. We have here, as you can see, in terms of well, we can do something else. For example, let's see that we can do that. We're gonna do the pipe here. Oh, much better. That's it. So I'm going to use this one. Sorry. I'm going to use the interval. I'm not going to use that. Inside subscribe. Aquí value. Oops. Value. All right. So back to square one. Okay. We're still emitting 1 every second. Oh, sorry. +1 every second. What you can do is filter it. Okay. So you can say, okay, I can do that. That's it. So what that means is I have a new operator called filter, which do exactly that. It will filter the value that are flowing through the pipe in the stream of data. And as long as this condition is fulfilled, it will let the data flow downside. Okay, so here we will get some value emitted. But as soon as value is greater than 5 or greater than 4 in this case, then no more value are emitted. But it doesn't mean that the observable is closed. Okay, it's still open because it's still, this one here, the interval is still emitting values, but the filter operator doesn't let them pass. Okay. What else? Conditional. There are a lot of them. So there are some interesting ones. For example, okay, I saw one. It was cool. Oh, there's a throttle time. I think it's throttle time. Okay, yeah, okay, doesn't matter. Okay, throttle time, for example, what it does is it lets the data flow downside until some time has expired. After some time, it just blocked it. Or there's the same thing with the number of events or data that are emitted. You can block if you just want to have the first 5. There's an operator to filter the first 5, and there's another one which is very important, which is the take operator. Okay, the take operator is not a filter. What it does is it takes as many it takes as many data emission as you put here, and then unsubscribe automatically. Okay, so this, for example, is good convention. It means that this observable is subscribed to, and as soon as it emits one value, one data, you get the data, and then you disconnect. So it's okay, no memory leaks.
So
if
it's
you
like
need
a promise, right?
This will be a very complex promise.
Yeah.
But you can say, okay, I just need the first 10. So it will do the same. It will get the first 10 and then disconnect. Okay, so the interesting stuff.
So I have just a general question. So that user observable that we created in our project, it's only, in reality, it exists once. And when you pull it into different components, it's actually the same observable, but different components subscribing to it. So
Exactly.
there's really one connection to Firestore. And then each place is deciding that's
why we use the behavior subject. That we're going to see that when we see the code. Okay, because it's a very delicate question. There's a nuance there, and our user observable, since it's a behavior subject, it's just one. If you do it directly against the Firestore functions, then you will get several observable, as many as connection. So that's why I did this design pattern of using a behavior subject to have a singleton.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So the thing that I'm going to show you right now is probably the most used in when you use Firestore, and is probably the thing that people most struggle with. Okay, so I explain what I'm trying to achieve. So we have our interval observable that will display or that will emit value every second, and then we have our button. Okay, with an observable that is listening to the click event. But as we have seen, until now, I've subscribed from the start. So the counter, the timing counter, is starting from the start. What I want to do is to start the counter when I click the button. Okay, which is the paradigm very similar to what we are doing in the application. We want to retrieve the venues from the user, but before that, we need the value of the user to be updated, to exist. So we have to wait for the user observable to emit some value to be able to query the database for the venues. Okay, so one depends on the other.
Yeah.
So here it's the same. I want to start the interval observable after I click on the button. Okay, so it's pretty easy. So I can do here, I do a pipe and the subscribe. Okay, I'm going to do some copy paste. It's going to be quicker. All right, I don't need that anymore. And here I use the tap operator. Actually, I don't care about the value of the click event. I don't use it. No, I don't really care about what the value of the click event. I can discard it, so I can just do this. I don't care about the value. And here I can do now. This will be triggered as soon as a new event happens in the click in the button. So I use my interval here. I use the pipe also, plus the subscribe. Let me see, where is the, okay, here. Interval pipe, subscribe, value, sorry. Okay, value. Okay, no pipe for the moment. Make it simple. Okay. So here, if you fold that, what you have here is the button observable. We subscribe to it. When we get some value, we put it. We just show it. But along the path inside the pipe, as soon as we get some click event, then we're going to subscribe to this observable, and which in turn each time we're going to get a value from this observable, we're going to show it to the console. Okay, so I'm clearing this. I click one, and there we go. So first we have this inside subscribe mouse event, because this is the result of subscribing to the click event. So we get the data, which is an event. And we also run the function inside the tap operator, which is a subscription to this interval observable. Okay, so more or less, I reload, I clean. So we don't have anything, and I click, and then just start counting. Okay, the interval. But what happens if I click again? What do you think is going to happen if I click again?
It will say that you're inside subscribe, and then it will continue from where it was emitting.
Yeah, I
Harry?
think the same. Yeah.
Okay, so let me reset. Okay, nothing's done. I click once. So I'm starting from tab 1, 0, 1, 2, etc. I click another time. Oh, look at that. I click many times.
Oh, so we have to use switchMap, right?
Exactly. So what is happening here is each time I click on the button,
You're subscribing again.
I'm subscribing again.
Yeah,
And those in those connection, they are still open.
they're all open. Yeah.
They are all open. And if this were an Angular component and I leave the page, so the component get destroyed, all these observables, all these subscription, they're still alive and they still get updated from wherever the observable come from. So this is the memory leaks. So if you have 3 or 4 connection to Firestore, which are constantly updating data, and you're not careful about unsubscribing, you're going to receive all those reads, and they're going to charge for it. Okay. So here is the example using tab. So as I said before, tab is just executing something. It doesn't transform anything. So if we use map here and we return this, what do you think we're going to have? What do you think is going to happen? It was not a rhetorical question, huh?
I'm trying to think about it.
Well, it's
I actually don't know.
First thought. So first we use map. Map is the operator to modify the content. Okay, so whatever goes into map has to come out, something has to come out of map, and usually you use it to transform this data. Okay, so maybe you get 1 entering map, and then you multiply 1 by whatever, you apply some modification to 1, and then you return the results, and then in subscribe, you will get this modified result. So here, what we are doing, we are returning the subscription to this observable. So here, if I click, each time I click, I'm going to get the subscriber object that we've seen before for the new observable. Okay, so here I just have 1 interval observable running, but if I click again, I have a new subscription. As you can see, I'm still going 16, 17, but I'm still starting 0, 1, 2, etc. Again, and again. So what I'm getting back are the subscription to those observable. Okay, but it's not cool because I'm still having those observable running. If I leave the code, then I will get memory leak. Well, I could do something about it because in the subscribe, since I knew I'm getting these subscription objects in the subscribe, I could store it somewhere. I could store them somewhere in an array, and when I leave the component, I could go do a loop over all those subscription and subscribe to all of them. So I could do something about it, but it's not really, it's not a good way to do it, and it's not even what I want to do, because here I have 7 subscriptions at the same time, and it's chaos. It's a mess. I don't know what is what. So this is not the way to do that. So what you do in this case is you get rid of this and you use switchMap. And switchMap has just one function. It's to switch from one observable to another observable. Okay? So what this is going to do is, with this subscribe here, I'm first subscribing to the button click observable. this is to say, I'm expecting some value, some click event to happen. But then in the pipe, I have a switch map. This switch map will be triggered each time there is a click event on this observable. And what I'm going to do is returning a new observable. Okay? So what it means is that inside this subscribe, I'm not actually getting the result of this observable. I'm getting the result of the second one, the intern one. Okay, or not?
Not yet. So talk through the sequence again. So when I click the button.
So if you have this code, okay, I'm going to get rid of this, okay, to make it more simpler. Okay, if you have this code, nothing is going to happen because there's no subscription to anything. So you're just defining stuff. You're not running them. Okay. As soon as you subscribe to the outer observable, the button one, the one that is outside, the most outside layer, then you're opening the faucet and you're saying, okay, I'm ready. Give me some data, or I'm ready to receive the data. So this button click observable will receive all the events that the click on the button will emit. So each time I click, there is a new event or data emitted from this observable that will go through the pipe to the subscribe function. But inside the pipe, I have the switch map operator. And what the switch map operator does, it does what it says. It switches what it gets from another observable. So it's like, so now I'm returning this observable, and I'm also I'm subscribing to it. So the result I get here is the result of it's the data of this observable. So it's like map. When we had map with when we did that, okay, when we did my interval pipe map value by 2, and then here just copy that. I'm going to subscribe to that. Okay. So here, this observable, the interval observable, is emitting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. each second. But with the map, what I'm getting in the subscribe is this value, but multiplied by 2. So I am changing along the way of the pipe the return value of the data. So at the end, so that's why I'm always using the analogy of the faucet and the pipe, or like a gardening hose. Imagine that the observable is the faucet, or except that the observable is what is emitting the data, and then inside the subscribe you have the bucket when you have the hose, the pipe plug. So inside the bucket at the end, you will have the result of all the transformation that happens in the pipe. Okay, so if you bifurcate the pipe in 2 places, so you only have half of the water, stuff like that, no? If you add some color along the way, so maybe the water at the beginning is transparent, but when it goes into the bucket, it's red. So that's exactly how it works. So here we have a value, and we return another value. And so this is this result. This is what we get here in the subscribe. The switch map does exactly the same stuff, but it's not doing it with a value. It's doing it with an observable. So it means that each time there is a value emitted by this observable, instead of altering this value, I will just return a new observable. Okay, so let's comment.
What happens to the observable that you had before? So if you click the button twice.
Okay, so that's the point of switch map. So here, see, I reload. Nothing is happening. If I click, okay, this is inside subscribe. Okay, this is this code. I'm getting the values from the interval observable. I don't have any click event here. Okay, the click event is discarded.
Okay.
And if I click again, oh, I'm starting again from 0. But I only have 1. Not like before when I used tap. When each time I clicked, I generated a new subscription. So the switch map is super powerful.
Oh, because what it's saying is I already have this observable, so it just uses it again, or is it replacing the
Exactly.
one it had with another one?
Exactly. So there is an operator called finalize, which, as his name is quite self-explaining. It is triggered when the observable. Oh, sorry, it's not here. When the observable is finalized. Okay, so here switch map. So I'm gonna pipe here and put the finalize, and here I'm gonna say console log the inner observable is unsubscribed. Oops, sorry. So here I've clicked once, so it goes forever. And if I click again,
Okay.
so the first, let's say that the first my interval observable subscription that we created the first time we clicked is canceled and is replaced with a new one. Okay. So what do you do actually when you use? So I can click as many times as I wish. I will only have one inner observable. Okay. And when the outer observable finishes, sorry, the inner one will also finish. But in this case, the from event, it never finishes. It just listen to the dumb events forever. So there's no finishing there. But if I, for example, if I unsubscribed it, then the other one will be also terminated. So no memory leaks. So what you actually do, what is the way to use observables, is you don't subscribe here in your code. What you do is you use the async pipe in your template, and you let Angular take care of subscribing and unsubscribing. What you do in your code is just defining the pipe to do all the transformation you need. Okay, so for example, in our case, we need to subscribe to the user observable from the auth service to wait for it to get some value. Once we have the value, we retrieve the venues. Maybe we can do some stuff with the venues. We can modify them, or we can do whatever we want with them. So we do all that in the pipe, and that's it. We don't subscribe to it. And then in the template, we use the async pipe. I will show you how to use that. And Angular will take care of subscribing and unsubscribing from the observable that is behind. And so you don't have to do it yourself. So this is what is called reactive programming, because you don't actually do stuff. You just prepare the code for when some data arrive, it gets transformed as you wish, and then it gets displayed. Okay. So I think I didn't have. Yeah, I didn't have. So okay. So any more question on that?
Yeah, like on our app, how often will the user get updated? Does this only depend on the auth service from Google, or is it something else?
For the auth service from Firebase.
Yeah.
I think
it would only change if somebody logged out and then logged back in.
Yes. So the only events that will cause a new data to be emitted will be logging and logout. So this is something that is actually done by the user on the client. Or if you disable or you delete the account on the console. So because actually you're subscribing to the change in the state of the authentication of the user. So if the user is in or out, or log in or log out, so there's a change in the state. If it get disabled, there's a change in the state. If it get deleted, there's a change in the state. So you get notified.
So we'll
In
have
normal
to use
circumstances, you just have one. Okay, you go to the app. If you have already, for example, logged in the past, you probably have some cookies stored. So automatically Firebase will get those cookies, try to log in with this cookie, and if normally it works, you get automatically signed in the application. So you get one notification with null, meaning that the observable has started. It has queried the database for the authentication, but the cookie stuff has not happened yet. So no authentication ready. So the state will be null. Then the cookie stuff is happening. So you have a change in the state, and then you get back the user that is authenticated. So that's what usually is happening. But it's not always like that, because maybe the app takes more time to start running, and it gets authenticated before the first query, so you don't get the first null. So that's why asynchronous behavior is quite difficult to predict, because you don't know when thing happens. It depends on the traffic on the network. It depends of your user action. So it's not always the same.
So we'll have to use filters just to make sure we're not dealing with any null users, right?
Exactly. So that's why you'd use the filter value. Okay. That means if the value is null or undefined, block it. Don't go back. Don't go down the way of the pipe. So it won't go there. It won't go to the subscribe. It won't go anywhere. So you have to have some meaningful value for the rest of the pipe to be executed. So it blocks what is not useful. So in some cases, it's relevant to get the information when value is null, because probably if you get disconnected, I haven't done the test, but if your user is deleted, I don't know what kind of state you retrieve with the Firebase auth service. Maybe you get null because the authentication is deleted, so there's no authentication anymore. So maybe you get null. So if you get null in this case, you should log out the user, or you should, just take the user out of any sensitive part of the app, so it's not authenticated anymore. So it's not always, you have to think about what you're doing. It's not always a good thing to filter the null value. Many times.
So in our case,
so let's see. Do you have any general question about that? What we just seen?
I'm trying to understand which thing. If you're thinking in an async setting and you're trying to make sure things happen in the right order, how do you think about what should be inner to something else? So is it that the thing that you want to happen last is the thing that should be most outside? Like, it looks like you're nesting here with the...
Yeah, well, you're nesting.
So what thing happens last in that sequence? The thing that's furthest outside?
No, I don't look at it as inside or outside. Let's say that the most inner observable is the one that needs more information.
Okay, that's helpful. So the thing that you need the other things to have happened before it can do what it needs to do should be the most inner one. Okay,
exactly. So if you have a function, for example, to calculate the scoring of a company, you need the company name, you need the balance sheet, you need whatever you need. You have a function that needs 5 parameters, and all those parameters are stored in a database in different tables. So maybe you can do some the first observable, the outer observable for the first table, then it will switch map to the second observable, which is another table, another switch map, and at the end you will get all the value you need to call your function. Okay, but this is not good because okay, it's syntactically correct and it works, but you are working, you're serializing.
Everything is serialized. That's why I was asking, because
okay, so in those case, you use another creator here, which is combine latest. Okay, and combine latest is, you just do that. You use this creation function with observable. So let's say that okay, you have HTTP request, you have an API, you have, okay, let's start from the beginning. You need to run a function that takes some arguments. Let's say that it takes 3 arguments. Those arguments has to be fetched from an API. Each one of them. It's not just one call, it's 3 calls. Each call get the argument you need to run your function. So you have 2 scenarios, the one we described. So you call the first, you subscribe, let's say, to the first observable to get the first API call. Once you get it, you call the second one. Once you get it, so you serialize it, so it works, but it takes the sum of all the time you have to wait for all the calls. Yeah. Okay? Or what you can do is parallelize all the calls. So let's say you have, okay, let's try to do it. Okay, I think it's gonna be, whoa.
It's a similar idea to why you use promise.all, right?
So we have those 3. This one is 500, and this one is 2. It's 3. Let's say something that are not. Okay, so I have 3 observable. Let's imagine that those observable are HTTP requests. So you don't really know when they're gonna get back. So you can do that. You pass here an array of observable. Oops, one is okay. And that's it. That's an observable. So you can pipe stuff here. Okay. But so you could pipe, then map. So here you will get API results 1, API result 2, and API result 3. Okay. And here you call,
you do whatever you need.
Exactly. Call function with API result 1, 2, 3, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah.
And you return. Okay, let's do return that. Okay, this is the result of my function. I have my 3 parameters. I've called my HTTP services, and then here I subscribe. Value and console log value. Okay, so here you go. So, okay, let's see. Let's say it's hard to see. So we're gonna do something else. We're gonna do 5 second, 3 second, and 4 second and a half. Okay, so as soon as I refresh it, this observable will get called. Okay, so let's see. I refresh. Well, I have to clear first. Okay, refresh. Nothing is happening. Okay, so then we have them. So the first code you have, since it's combined latest, it means there's other operators to combine observable, but combine latest is the most useful for me because what it does is it doesn't emit anything until all the observable have resolved as emit a value. And each time, and this is the first call, and then each time there is a new update from one of the observable, it will update this value, emit a new array, and if the other observable have not emitted any value, it will get the last one.
The last one that it had, yeah.
So you always have, in our case, 3 data.
Yeah.
So as you have the newest data for each observable. Maybe some have updated, maybe some have not, but you always have those three values, which are the most recent ones.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do it in parallel. Obviously, it's much quicker. All right. Okay. Let's forget about that. Is that okay? We can go to the app.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I encourage you to use TagBlitz and to play with the observable. Use the learn RxJS and try to do the example and understand how it works, all the mechanics. Have a look at all the operators. There's some pretty awesome stuff. Okay. Bye-bye. This one. So the code. Well, that maybe is too much. I hope it works because I've worked on it on last weekend and I've not looked at it since then. Okay, one second. So let's see. Let's see local host. I'm checking if it works. Works more or less. No, I know why. I think I know why. It has quite an easy solution. Just one second. I will host. All right. Come on. It's coming. Yeah, there's probably something that is not okay. We're going to fix it anyway. Okay, it works. Okay, so I'm going to show you first part of the code. Let me share the window, stop this one, and this one. Okay, is the size okay? You can see the code more or less clear?
Yeah.
Or is it too small?
No, I can read.
Okay, so the first thing we had to do, that doesn't have anything to do with venues and stuff like that. It's to go to the auth service here. Okay, you remember this part? So here the switch map. Okay, so here we have the auth state observable from the Firebase library. This is an observable. And what we want to do is, as soon as we get some data flowing through this pipe, we want to switch to another observable, which is a one that we created ourselves in the user service. Okay, this one. So that's how. And what it means is each time, what it means is in this subscription here at the end, we're going to get both notified if the value that is in Firestore for our user is changed, or if the state is changed. Okay, because if the state is changed, then the data will flow there. It will go to the switch map, and it will run all this code. And if this is an observable, if this is changed, since we return a value here, it will also go here. So here the user is the value that we get from Firestore. It's not the value that we get from the authentication service of Firebase. It's our value that we created in the database. Okay, and what we do here, this is the only way. No, it's not the only way, but let's say it's the easiest way to get a unique subscription to the user and to store it in a service to be able to be used anywhere in the app. Okay, so it's a very particular case because we don't want to make 35 subscription to this component, to this collection, because we just want to have the user, because we're going to use everywhere for authorization, to display the name, whatever. So it's the easiest way to do it is to store it in the service. But this is not good practice in general. In general, you don't subscribe in your code. Okay, so I posted an article. It's a very quick article. They explain how to do that and why. So this is a very particular case. So what I wanted to show is this. You remember that what we do here is we get a state from Firebase. If there is a user, meaning if we are logged in, then we retrieve the corresponding document from the Firestore collection to get our data. And then what we do is, in case this user in case there is no record, there's no document for this user in the database, we create one and we route the user to the user page for the user to complete some information. But if the user already exists in our database, it has already logged in and already filled out all the form, we will go to this part. And what we'll do here is we're gonna update the user, and we're gonna route the user to the home page. It was like that. This is not good. Okay, it's not okay, because probably the user, maybe you go someplace, you click refresh, and you will be automatically rerouted to the home page. It's really annoying. So what you have to do here is to just add this one, which is since I have the router service, I can say, okay, first check if there is a URL. If the user has tried to reach a specific URL in my domain, for example, /user or /venues or /user /venue /the ID of the venue, some kind of path. Because if there is a path, it means that the user is requesting to go there. So why should you redirect him to the homepage? Doesn't make any sense. So you check if there is a value in the URL. And if there's no value, if this is null, then you route it to home, because you have to route it somewhere. Okay? So this is important, because if you don't do that, each time you click on a button, you go somewhere and you go back to the homepage. It's because we are going to update the user. Okay, so first thing, I'm not saving. Then I don't remember what I had written and published and what I had not. So let me check user module routes. So here, it's a good idea. Do you know the principle of the REST API?
Yes.
Harry,
No.
do you know them?
No.
Okay. It's very easy. It means that you should your website should be the place where you are in your website should be reflected in your URL. Okay, meaning that if, for example, you have several venues for a user, the path, the URL should be your app /user /the ID of the user /venues /the ID of the venue. This way, if you want to do some links to go directly to this page, you can do it. Okay, so you have some dynamic places, some dynamic placeholders in your URL to be able to route the user directly where he wants to go. So that's why it's interesting to have those new paths. So here, before that, we only had the root path of the user module that will go to the user component. We create a new one, which is venues, which will be under the user route. And in this venue, we display the user venue manager component, which is a mouthful. Okay. And we also have here the venue service. So where do we I'm trying to remember where we use the share module. Okay, here. Okay. So we have defined a venue service where it's the place where we're going to do all the code to manage the access to the database to retrieve and save the data. And I have included it into the shared module, meaning that as soon as the user has passed the home page, the shared module is loaded, and we're gonna load also the venue service. It makes sense because in our application, venues are a core piece of the application. It's probably the most important stuff. So probably you're gonna need to access venues on almost any page the user will want to see. So it makes sense to load it at the beginning. Okay, but if it was something very very rare to use, then you will put it in outside in another module. Okay, so that means what I'm saying is, why I'm saying that is, since it's in the share module, it will get loaded at the beginning. And I'm saying that because I've seen your code, Thomas, and there is something that is not correct in your code, which is, if I go here, this is your code, okay? So here you have the constructor, everything is okay. Here you're trying to retrieve the user, but since it is loaded at the beginning, the user hasn't had time to be authenticated, so this is empty. And then here, before when I saw that, oh yes, you're subscribing here. So first you're subscribing inside the service, not good, and you're subscribing directly in the constructor. It means as soon as the app is loaded, you're already pulling some data from the database. You actually don't need that because you don't know where the user is. Probably the user is in some page or maybe in the user. You don't need the venues right now. So you don't have to subscribe.
So this should be a method for getting the venues.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. So getting back to my code. Oh, because I have modified it. Okay, so see in my constructor, there's nothing, there's no code. I'm just injecting our auth service and the Angular Firestore library service, and then I'm defining 1, 2, 3 methods, always the same. Get all the venues, get one venue, and delete and save. Okay, and here, as you can see, what I'm returning is an observable that will contain an array of venues. But here, I'm not subscribing to anything. So as soon as this service is loaded, all these functions are defined, but they are not actually executed. They are just defined, okay? And those functions, they return observables. So even if I run them, I have to subscribe to them to get some data, okay? So here, what is user email? Oh, okay, so what I've done. Oh, there's okay. I remember what I did. I remember what I did. Okay, there is 2 ways to do that. So here, what I'm doing is I'm creating a function that needs one parameter, which is the username of the user email, which is the ID, let's say, of the user. So I don't care if I have or not or don't have yet the user because I'm not using it. If I were to use it, I would use switchMap. I will do, let's say, let's duplicate that. Get venue for user 2. Let's call it for current user. Okay, because this one actually is more generic. I could use it for any user.
If you're an admin, you could
exactly. But if I want the current user, what I would do is Where is the service? So I will do that. So this is an observable. Okay, see why the $sign is important when you define your variable, because of autocomplete. Then I know that the auth service, it has this variable, and since it has $, I know it's an observable. So I use that, and I can pipe it, and then here
Like a switch map.
I can switch map it. Okay, switch map, user, and I know, actually, let's see that. I know that if you hover on the variable, it tells you that it is of type user, because it knows, because this variable is an observable of type user. So what you get inside the switch map, it's the content of the observable, so it's a user. And here I just return the other observable, and here what I have, you use the variable that you get from the outer observable to reach. So this is the, let's say this is the more correct way to do that. It's more eloquent function, because it's just for the current user, no mistake. And this one is, let's generate. Okay. The other ones, there's nothing new there. Oh yes, for the save one, there's something new. Delete and delete save. Yeah, we're going to see that afterward. So then, user component, submit. I don't remember. Okay, so let me show you how the app look like. What the app look like, if I can find it. Yeah. Stop. Okay. So I'm here on the home page. Okay, you can see that, no?
Mm-hmm.
So I click user profile. I'm gonna reduce a little bit, and I have the same form as before. I'm in the user path, and here I have my venues. So I can click on go to venues, and here you can see that I'm in user venues, the route that we defined before.
Mm-hmm.
And here I've just split the screen in two. Here I have a list with all my venues, and in this part I have a form that will appear when I click. So name, another venue, zip code, save venue, and there you go. It appears here. Okay, and if I want to delete them, I can delete them here. But what is important, and I don't know if I can do that. Let me try to put those two windows side by side. Shit. Okay, this one here. Yeah. And this one here. Okay, present window. No, and present entire screen. This one, correct. So you can see the both browsers side by side, no?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the console. This one, Firestore. And here we have two collections. As we remember that we said that in my user, I will save a partial of the venue, meaning maybe some field to be able to display some basic information. But since the venue have a lot more information than the one I want to display, some statistics, opening hours, I have to have another collection with the venues. So I have to be careful to conserve, to sync the data that is here and the data that is here, because it has to be the same. Okay. So if I, for example, if I modify this one, you're going to see both user and venues in orange. Well, actually, it doesn't. You don't see this one in orange, but here, okay, this one. Okay, this one has been changed. Another venue 111, and if I change it back, okay, it changes, and also venues. I don't know which one is it. It has also. It has not changed. Oh yeah, okay. This is this one. Okay, so how can you do that? Back to our code. Where is the code? It's here. Okay, so venue service, no, it's, yes, venue service. Okay, let's look at that. So when I click save for the venue, okay, we know that we get past the parameter, which is a venue, the full venue, okay? First, we check if the venue exists, if this variable has something. If it's empty, we just resolve null. There's nothing to save. If we don't have any ID, we create a new one. This is a Firestore library function. It's not mine. We just create a new ID. If the venue field called created time is empty, because probably it's a new one, you assign a new value to it. And then you build your partial user venue. Maybe this venue, it has hundreds of fields. You don't know. But what you want to save inside the user object is just the ID, the name, and the zip code. That's it. The other 99 fields, you don't care. So you create this object. Here, well, this is just to copy. Okay, it's just the spread operator to make a copy of the user. Because I want to change it, I don't want to change the one in the service. Okay, here I'm not using the observable because since I am where I am, it means that I'm logged in. So I know there is a value there because I am where I am, because I wouldn't be able to reach this point of the app if I was not logged in. Okay. So I get a copy of the user, and here I check if the venue's owned field exists. If it doesn't, I create it as an empty array. Then here, what I do is, okay, this venue I'm going to save, does it exist already? Is it something that exists, or it is something new? Does it exist in my venue's own array? So that's what I'm checking. So I'm trying to get the index of this venue. If there is an index, it means it exists. So I just update it. Let's say hard-coded update. I take this object and I overwrite the previous one with it. And if it doesn't exist, I just push it to this array. Okay. And then here comes the interesting part. Then I create a batch object from the Firestore library. A batch object is the object you use to do atomic writes or atomic reads, but usually do atomic writes. And an atomic write means all or nothing. You specified a lot of modification to many documents, and then you commit them. And the library will take care of, or we make sure that either they all succeed, or if one fail, they will roll back the changes and do nothing. So it's all or nothing. You won't be able to update one and the other will get out of sync. So that's why you do batch. So that's what we want. We want the venue collection with the venue's document inside to be exactly the same of the partial of the user document. So that's what we do. First, we get a reference to the venue document. That's what you do. You create a reference with the .ref. You do the same for the user. Okay. And then here, what we do is we set the value for this reference with this object with this value, and I always use merge true, which is very useful because if it doesn't exist, it creates it, and if it exists, it just overwrites the fields that you're passing it. It's not overwriting everything. It's not deleting and creating a new one. It's just updating the existing fields. So I'm setting the venue inside the venue collection, and I'm setting a new value for our user. And then I return, or then I call commit on the batch that will run everything and fail or succeed if everything goes well. This is the result that we'll get, which is void. Okay, commit, as you can see, it's promise of void. So if everything goes correctly, the then function will be called with no value, and I want to return the venue. So this is my choice. Okay, so in this function, I want to return a venue from this function because I'm saving it, and probably if it's a new one, from the place I've called this function, I didn't have the ID of this venue because I'm creating it the ID here. So the return value of the save function is a venue. Okay, so I'm returning it here, where it is here. And if there is an error on the batch commit, there will be no change in the database, and then I can do whatever I want. In here, I throw an error. Okay, and for the delete, it's exactly the same. I get the copy of the user. I try to find the venue in the index. I try to find blah, blah, blah. And then instead of set, I delete the venue. And I, again, overwrite the user with the new value. And I have got rid of the venue I wanted to delete.
So can you just go back to where you're doing this part of the function with the index? So what that's doing is I check to see. So if I don't have any venues, I'll end up with an empty array. If I have venues, they will be
so this
user.venuezone is equal to user.
You mean this line?
Yeah, that line, yeah.
Okay, this line is
Else return the user venue zone, right?
see exactly else return blah blah blah. So
okay, so then after you do that, then you are taking to find the index.
Well, actually,
this was inside there, I think. Yeah, so the find index, yeah, this thing here. What you're doing there is you're saying, look for the index of the venue that has an ID that matches the ID of this particular venue. Like,
yeah.
What is this?
The find index is the same, works the same as map, as for each, as filter. It's a loop. So
yeah.
Find index v will be iterating over all the values of this array.
Okay.
Okay. So v will be, if there's 3 value, there this callback function will be called 3 times, and each time v will be the next value of this array. Okay. So if in venue owned I have two venues, sorry. First iteration, I will have the first venue as v, and I will check if the ID of v is the same as the ID I'm trying to save here.
Got it. So it's just checking to see, do I already have this venue?
Exactly. So I'm seeing if this venue exists in my array. Okay. So as all the find function in JavaScript, if it doesn't find anything, this will be -1.
Got it.
The index of -1 means that I can't find it.
Yeah.
If it's not -1, meaning if it's 0 or more, it means it exists in this array and this is its position. Okay. So this means if this venue already exists in my venues on array, so I know its index, so I can use directly. Okay, so this is basically referencing the old value of the venue, and I'm overwriting it with the new value of the venue. If it does not exist, then I just
You're adding it to the.
I'm adding it to this array.
Got it.
Okay, and then I do the batch.
And then the array is what you use for the batch.
Well, no, the array.
No. Actually, you're putting in the new one. Yeah.
I have to save the document,
Yeah.
the whole document.
Yeah.
Okay, I could actually. It's not true. I could actually just save the venues. You're right, and it will be better.
But
I could just say I would have here. I would have to create. I would have to do this, and this is correct.
Mm-hmm.
So what this will do, it will just overwrite this attribute of the document, of the user document. It won't change any other parameters.
Yeah.
Okay, it is more correct because I'm here. I'm not interested in changing the name or the email or the phone number of the guy. So it as a precaution, you never know. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it will be better to do that.
Okay.
So here I'm setting what action I want the batch to take. And once I have defined all the actions, then I commit them.
Yeah. Got it.
Okay, for the delete, exactly the same. I'm checking if the venue exists. If it exists, I get rid of it. And then I'm saving everything. Well, instead of adding the new venue, I delete it. And I set the new value for the user. And then I commit everything. Okay. And I think that's it for today. Well, there's plenty of code that you can study, but it's pretty easy. The hard part was that. So inside the user component, where is the user component? HTML. Okay, so this is something we haven't seen that yet, I think, or I don't remember. So, well, I put an anchor element, but it doesn't matter. You could put whatever you want, okay? But there is an attribute from Angular called router link, which is an easy way to route the user to a specific route that you have defined, okay? So you just put the route inside the brackets, and it will go there. And here inside the venue, okay, inside the venue, this is the interesting also. See, here it goes. So in the constructor, so this is the venue manager. Okay, so this is the screen where you had all the list of all your venue on the left side, and on the right side you have the form. So what this component does is, as soon as it is created, it will retrieve the venues. Here it makes sense because here I want to display them. So there's no point in making the user wait for it. So as soon as the component is created, first I've defined user venue observable, which is observable venues, and I define it as the result of as we have done before. I'm using the user observable of the auth service. Then I filter it to make sure that the user exists, which is completely useless here because if I'm here, it means that I'm logged in. But it's a precaution in case the user has been suddenly disabled from the admin. Here, you make sure that it will also get triggered. And then I switch map and call the get venue for user with the values with the value of the user. Okay? So as you can see, I'm not subscribing anything. I'm just returning the result of get venues for user inside this observable through the switch map. Okay, and then inside the template, inside the HTML, I use the async pipe. Okay, so this here is exactly the same as subscribe. So this is a very common design pattern. You use ngIf, ngIf in Angular is if the value inside the quotes is true, meaning if it's actually true, or if it's a existing object, if it's not false or null, this element will be displayed. And as you can see, this element is a special element from Angular. It's an ng container, which is basically nothing. It's just a container of what is inside. So what this means is, first, take the observable user venues and subscribe to it with the async pipe. And the result of what you get from this subscription, assign it to a new variable called user venues, but without the $sign. This is actually the data. Okay? And with the ngIf, what it means is, if there's no result, if user venues is false, is empty, don't display that. So there will be nothing on screen, which is not a good practice. We should always have some feedback for the user with displaying a message, say no and no venue available or something like that. Okay. But what you have here is you have two things. First, you can show or not show some components depending on if there is value or not value or no value. But you can also get rid of the complexity of the observable, because in your template you don't want to mess with observable. You just want to display stuff. So here I have the user venues, which is an array of venues. So from now on, inside the ng container, I can use user venue as what it is. It's just an array of venue. Okay, so I can use here an ng4, would just do a loop over this array, venue by venue, and will duplicate this element as many times as the venue there are in the user venue array. Okay, so this element here, the one that has the ng4, is the one that is going to be repeated as many times as venues there are in the array. And this variable here, for each repetition, will have a different value. So you can assign it to the click object, and obviously you can show the name or show whatever here, whatever property of a venue you want to show. Okay, and then here you have the button stuff in the form. So here this is the nav, the left side of the screen, and this is the form. Okay, so check it. I just wanted to explain the async pipe here, meaning that once you know that, or once there is something, once the observable has emitted a value, this value will be stored in this variable, which is called a template variable. It's not a variable that exists in the code. It just exists here in the HTML, and you can use it inside here, wherever you want. It's an array of venues, and you can do whatever you want to with it. Okay? Any question before I close the session?
No, plenty to study.
Okay, yeah, I guess
there
are plenty of stuff, of new code here to study. I think you should, maybe copy paste or whatever. Try to get the code to your branch and start playing with it. Yep. And try to change stuff and maybe debug it, so you see the workflow, how it goes, where it starts, when it finishes, etc. Okay, and don't hesitate to post some question on the code on Slack if you have some.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Patrick.
Well, more or less we got in time today. Just 10 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, have a nice end of weekend and a good weekend.
Okay.
You too.
Thank you.
On Slack. Bye.
Bye.